Hello friends, another video from Drywall Repairman. On this channel we have mostly videos of drywall repairs such as patching, stress cracks, texture matching, small jobs, easy jobs, do-it-yourself type jobs. We are on the job working, so as I'm working I'm trying to make simple videos to show you guys how to do watch and learn type videos. So let's go ahead and jump into the video here and see what's involved. Also, at the end of the video, please subscribe, like, and comment, and jump in the other playlists and watch my other videos. Hey, thanks for watching this video.
Hello everybody, Drywall Repairman here. Today's project, this is a water heater pedestal. The water heater was leaking, so they had it removed. They had to remove the sheetrock. So now what we're going to do is just sheetrock this in, sheetrock the top. This side we're going to corner bead with square corner bead. This is like a post, I guess, so they don't hit it with the car. It is in a garage. But we're going to go ahead and just do a simple sheetrock. Sheetrock over the wood paneling, so that made it easier. That's like a barrier between the house and the garage. But pretty simple. Just sheetrock it up. Get it sheetrocked. We're going to turn around and tape it with fiberglass tape. I'm going to coat it out. I'm going to use a 20-minute or a 5-minute hot set, quick set mud. And then we're going to get it all coated out, and then we're going to follow through with a spray knockdown texture. I'm not going to bore you with details, more like a watch and learn. So let's get to work. Sun is up. Got to get this done. They want to get this done quickly so they can put their water heater back and be able to take warm. First thing you need to do, everything's nice and square. Sometimes I like to mark the studs with the pencil. So I know, easier way, just put a screw in it. That way you're tightening up the old sheetrock and you're marking the stud at the same time. Now I know where that stud is. This one's sheeting, so you can put basically screws anywhere. But you want to get some in the existing to tighten up the old sheetrock. Wood backing here. I like to do some 2x4s, but there's a pipe there, so I'm going to have to get some smaller woods, like some 1x2s. That's why I always keep these 1x2s on hand. They're perfect for this scenario. When you have a tight area like that. It's real tight to get into there, so what I like to do on these to get the wood inside there, I like to just put a screw in it. Now I can use that screw as leverage to get it inside the wall. This is a little trick that I like to do. I'm sure other guys use it, but it comes in handy in tight areas like this when you're trying to get backing. So just try to get it in there. See how I can get the wood in there. I'm holding it with the screw, so now I can use that screw to pull the piece of wood towards me, towards the old sheetrock, and get a couple screws in it. One screw, two screws. There you go. Now I can back the screw out. Then same thing, I'm going to get another block in here. I'm going to put another screw in here so I have that for leverage. Leverage to get it in there. You could also cut the sheetrock back if need be. You don't want to go the next stud because there'll be another 2 feet over, so sometimes it's easier just to use backing in its place. Real tight area, you're gonna fight with it, but yeah, got it in. Use that screw to pull it towards you to keep it tight so you can get a screw in it. Get one more screw in the bottom area. Back out your leverage screw. Alright, double check everything. There's framing on each side. Plenty of framing, so now you can sheetrock. You always want to check for framing issues before you install sheetrock. Basic measurements. I like to take basic measurements. These are just small pieces we're putting in. So I'm just going to take my basic measurements here. I'm going to just say this is 28 inches. By 16. I would also like to measure both sides, so if one side's higher than the other. See, this one's under 16, so I'm going to just say 15 and a half. 15.5. So you can take all your measurements and do all your cuts at once, but I'm going to just do one piece at a time since I have to cut around this gas line. Since they have the valve on there, I'm going to have to cut the hole bigger and then just tape around the hole, or you can notch it, but it's easier just to make a bigger hole so you can get the sheetrock over the valve. So let's go ahead and cut the piece of sheetrock, 28 by 15 and a half. And you also want to make sure you use the correct depth sheetrock. This looks like it's 5/8 since it's in the garage. So let's go ahead and cut the piece of sheetrock needed for that. Once you got your piece cut out, now of course you're going to have to make a circle cut for this. So easier way is just to measure center. We like to do center on boxes and patches in the wall. So center of this is 3 3/4. Then I like to go from the bottom up. Center, 6 1/2. 6 1/2. So then you measure a piece that you cut out. 6 1/2 that way. By what did I say? 3 3/4 this way. Basically that gives me my center, my pipe there, just a round pipe cut out. You could use a circle cutter or whatever, but it's such a small thing. I'm just going to use my jab saw here to cut it out. You make the hole too big, it's fine. You're just going to tape around it anyways and mud up to it and texture it. You just want to get it past that valve. If it was just a straight pipe, it'd be easier to do than a valve pipe. Keyhole saw, jab saw is perfect for these to get a hole in there. And if you need to clean it up, use your razor blade to get the rough edges. You might also have to cut it back once you try to line it up. You might have to cut it a little bit on each side. Just line it up. See, like right there, the valve is hitting on top, so I have to cut the top. It's almost like a T on top of the valve, on and off valve. A little more on the right hand side and she should fit. It's not going to be a perfect fit. You're cutting around valves that should have been capped off. So like I said, there's going to be a gap there, of course, so we're just going to, the area is still tight, just cut it back. There's going to be a gap here because the piece I had was exactly 24 inches and it called for slightly bigger, so I might just put the new sheetrock in there. If need be, I'll put a little strip of sheetrock in there to fill it in. And the angle, doesn't matter, tape the angle. So this is really tight. top, which is good. Cut it back, cut it back. Remember how I didn't put the screws there? So now I know where my studs are. So go ahead and get your screw gun in. Any gaps, don't worry, because we're going to pre-fill this with a hot mud. I like to start with the screws on the original studs. They're stronger than your backing pieces you put in. Your backing piece, go ahead and put them in. Any gaps that you're concerned with, you can either pre-fill it or you can put a piece in there. This was cut out by them, so it's not the straightest cuts. Get your screws in. Alright, that's good for now. Now we're going to take the measurement of here. This is kind of like a P design, so I'm just going to do one piece there and one piece on the bottom. Let's take my measurements. I'm going to kick this all the way over to the angle. They're going to do door trim, so I'm not going to take it all the way to the door jamb. I'm going to take it to the edge of the wall. It's 34.5 by 16. 34.5 by 16. Go ahead and get that cut out. Alright, 34 by 16 pieces cut. If it's tight, you can always rasp the edges. Kick it over all the way to the angle. It's a little tight on top. Take your razor blade, cut it back. Alright. You have a little gap there. I might just do a little strip of 5/8 in there and fill that in, no problem. I just had only a piece for that. I'm trying to use 5/8 here, so seal it all up. This is wood sheeting here. So just do a nice symmetrical screw layout, 3 to 4 inches per screw. I'm going to go ahead and cut a little strip there to get an angle. That's good because I have plenty of scrap. I'm actually going to try to maybe hang this bottom piece and whatever scrap's left over, I'm going to piece it in there. I only have to piecemeal it because the piece I had there was only so big. Go ahead and cut it back. You can take the measurements or just line it up to the thing with the razor, mark it with the pencil or the razor, and go ahead and cut your piece. Mark it with your razor and just cut it. Nothing to it. All this is going to get mudded over and taped over, textured over. Trying to use up all my sheetrock too, so I don't have extra pieces of sheetrock lying around. Use it up. There you go, just like that. A few more screws put in. Now the side's done. The 5/8 sheetrock. Alright, I'm going to put a piece in there. If you're concerned about gaps or something like that, just go ahead and put a piece of sheetrock in there to fill in your gap. I had to cut the thing area to get this big valve through that hole. This gap's a little bigger than I want, so I'm just going to put a little piece of sheetrock in there, no big deal. And then I'm going to tape over it and mud over it. This is going to get 2 cuts of mud and a texture. Pushing in a tight piece of sheetrock. It's not loose, so it's going to stay in there pretty snug. If you want it, you can get a piece of wood in there and just screw it to the piece of wood, but that's just a filler piece. You know, they cut this demo off to the side a little bit, so I'm just going to do a little strip in there. This could be pre-filled also with mud. But if you have scrap pieces of drywall, go ahead and just use it up. No big deal. Alright. Plenty of screws in and everything tightened up, so now we're going to have to sheetrock the bench. I still have a piece of 5/8 left. I'm going to just use it in the front. Easy way is just line it up to it and piece that, since I'm going to corner bead it, no big deal. Easy technique on this is when you have it lined up and you're doing a square bead, is just cut the back side of it, score it 2 or 3 times, and then it'll snap right off. This is going to get corner beaded and the whole pedestal is going to get mudded, so no big deal. You just flip these whole things out heavy on top with mud and texture. Easy. Put some screws in it. I'm going to piece this in where the corner bead's going to go. I'm just trying to use up all my 5/8 half a sheet that I brought, so I don't have to cut another sheet of drywall. Good. This is my last piece of sheetrock I have, so I'm going to use it up, and then I have to use the new sheetrock for the top. Same thing there. Take your flat side, it's going to be butted against it, then just score it against the wood. Snap it, cut the back side, the other side you cut. Same thing here. They run it over the edge here and just cut it. Since it's 5/8 sheetrock, I like to score it 2 or 3 times. Snap it. If your edges are rough, sometimes you like to rasp them. Rasper tool works. It just takes the roughness off this. It's not needed, but if you have it, go ahead and use it. And that's just piecing it in right here, piecemeal. Working around this pole is going to be fun. It is what it is. Alright, let's do the top. Since I used my piece of 5/8 up, I'm going to have to use a new sheet. Half a sheet that I have. Sometimes easier to just take a measurement, or you could just lay the piece on top and then cut the sides. Let's take the measurement, the overall box. Alright, I got here a piece of sheetrock cut. They get a nice piece of purple board, green board. 28 by 28. You gotta go under this PVC pipe that they left. Make my life fun. Recessed edge here. I'm just gonna head ahead and move it. I'm gonna kick that recessed factory edge into the angle. It doesn't really matter, but it just makes it easier sometimes to tape it. Kick it all the way in. That's a nice, clean, tight thing. You know, we had a gap there, but put the pieces in, but overall it looks good. I put a lot of screws on top, and then we're going to go ahead and finish it off with a square corner bead. If you do square corner bead, you want these pieces at a 90 degrees so the square sits nicely. If you're doing a round bead, like a round bullnose, you have to cut the sheetrock back so the round bead will sit on there nicely. Round bead doesn't sit on 90 degrees. It sits more like, I guess would say 45 degree or something. So you'd have to cut the sheetrock back at least more than a 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch. Cut it back so the round bullnose will sit better. But on these pedestals, I just do square bead. Keeps it easier and cleaner. Plenty of screws in your angle. Let's go ahead and start screwing away. A couple more in. This is more than enough. When you get the corner bead on, this is going to be very strong. Alright, that thing's strong. Corner bead, corner bead, corner bead. This is getting a square 90-degree corner bead. I like to always use metal bead. I know a lot of guys try to use plastic beads, mud on beads. On wood framing walls, just stick to the metal beads. They do a better job. You want a pair of wire snips. Cut corner bead, you want a pair of these snips. They vary. I've seen them anywhere from about $11 to $20. These ones are alright. Milwaukee, you would think these are the best, but they seem to leave ragged cuts at the edges when you do cut them. Easy way to mark, I just like to put the bead on. Just lay it out like you're going to install it, and then mark it on the edge with your snips. Just cut it. Cut it. I marked it right there with the little cut. Then just follow through cutting it. Cut it, cut it, cut it. Cut it, cut it, cut it. Like I said, these ragged cuts with these Milwaukee. I went and got the best out there, and these are not the best for this. At least how I'm doing it. I'm probably doing it wrong. Scrap pieces you can keep. I only keep scrap pieces if they're over 2 foot. But basically lay it out. Some guys use nails, some guys use screws. I like to use screws. Nails back out. I push down on it, and the little holes on the outside edge, I start in the middle with the outside edge hole. I put a screw in that, and then I go to the next outside edge hole, put one on that. All the outside edge holes have a screw in it. If there's any popped out areas like in the corner, I'll put a screw right through the actual bead itself. Makes a nice tight corner. I always do that on all my corners, always. If any of the metal, if it's not sitting correctly, the metal's gonna pop out. Sometimes I like to put a screw in the middle. If metal's sticking out, then I'll put another screw in the middle. Looks good. Then I'll follow through on the other side, same thing. The small hole, Small hole, put a screw in. Small hole, put a screw in. Then I'll go into the angle. Get the angle tight. Get the corner tight around this pole. Then I like to check the centers. If it's bowing out a little bit, no problem. Just put a screw right through it. Sometimes if you can't catch a stud, you might have to toe nail it. Sometimes you have to actually staple the bead on. That's a good bead install using screws. I'm going to also run fiberglass mesh tape over the bead. I do that so the bead doesn't pop out or crack. That's why I keep these scrap pieces, these 2-foot pieces, because they're perfect for that. I'll do that one. And my next 2 foot I kept from the last job will do the leg. So then now I'm not cutting into a full stick of corner bead. I'm using up my scrap materials. Of course, if this is your one-time project, you just buy what you need. I try to use up all my materials. If you've got metal with jagged cuts, just go ahead and clean it up. No big deal. Clean it up. Make it nice and square. Clean it up. Same thing here. I'm going to do this pole one. I'm going to have to work around this pole, so I'm going to cut it a little further past my other one, since I can't get it to set nicely with that pole in the way. And that way I can get it down there, and then I'm going to mark it again, since I can get it on the back side of the pole. And I'm going to go right to the edge of my other bead and do a little cut so it marks it. That's right to the edge of the other one. Sometimes you could take it in, not even 1/8 of an inch, just a little bit, so that it doesn't overlap your existing corner bead. Some guys even like to do cut the corner tabs off. That way it doesn't overlap your other corner bead. Many tricks to this. You just do what works for you, of course. Everybody has a right or wrong way. But this way works nice because now it's not overlapping the other one. And it's right to the edge. You just kind of sit there and push it down. Make sure it sits flush. If it's not sitting flush, you might have to cut back your sheetrock. But this one's sitting nice and flush. It's right to the angle. The two edges here with this bead and that bead meet up. It's hard to tell with this pull in the way. Same thing there. Push in the middle of it and a small screw hole. Put a screw in. That one I didn't catch a stud, so I'm going to have to kick it over and catch the next stud over. There, it's tacked in. I like to push in the bead until I get it all out, so it doesn't come cockeyed installed. One in the angle, one in the corner. This screw is going to go through this bead and the first bead I installed. Nice and tight intersection with two beads. Then I'm going to throw some more on this corner. 3 screws in the corner. Once you get the top all secured, go ahead and put screws in the side here. I like to use screws. Other guys swear on nails, but I'm not swinging a hammer today. I'm using a screw gun. We got technology for a reason. Screws are stronger. They don't back out. If I did make a mistake installing the bead, I can back the screw out and reset it. You can't do that with nails. Once you set a nail, that's it. So that's why I do screws on my corner bead installs. The only reason they use hammer and nails is when they're doing big jobs and they got to hammer up a ton. Now we're going to do the leg. The leg is behind here. Maybe you can change the angle, but you can kind of see how the bead is with the screws. My corner. It's looking like a nice piece of work. It's almost a shame I'm going to have to mud over all this. But I'm going to change the angle of this camera. So we're going to do the leg here that pulls in the way. So we're going to do the leg, and I'm going to mark it right there at the very top. Very top. You can also use a marker, something mark it if you want to do it that way. Whatever is easiest for you. Here's the top. I'm just going to go just slightly, not even 1/8 of an inch below it. Or you can just mark it at the edge and then just cut below it, below your line. See that? How it's kind of overlapping. That's why I said take those tabs off. Then what I'm going to do in this corner, if it is sticking up, I'm just going to hammer that corner down and make a nice point. Same thing here. Once you get it set, push in the center. Don't do the top push in the center and make sure it sits nicely. It's not rocking and rolling. And then you want to get a screw or two in the sides just to kind of hold it in place. Go up to the next one. Once I get up here to the corner, I'm going to put one right here. See, this screw is going to go through both of these. It tightens up that whole, both of those together. Then go ahead and just tack it all down. Your bottom, if you miss the screw, try to toe nail it to catch the stud. Sometimes if you're having really trouble, you might have to get a longer screw to toe nail it to catch it. But it should work if the area is framed correctly. I'm going to have to fight around this pole. So I'm unable to catch it. Remember, I told you this corner, you can take your hammer and kind of, you're shaping, I guess you'd call it tin knockers. You can make a nice, perfect corner there. The tip of the corner just by, I'm not going crazy with it, I'm just trying to manipulate the 3 corner pieces into one and make a nice corner. Or you can just mud it really good and never know. Plenty of screws, double check everything, make sure everything has plenty of screws. Our next step, we're going to go through and fiberglass mesh tape everything. That's a nice corner now. Fiberglass. I always like to scrape my sides. This is a controversial subject here, fiberglass mesh tape. Just use it. I'm telling you, it works good. I'm going to fiberglass my corner bead. A lot of guys don't do this, but why I do it is so it doesn't pop and crack. We're not totally overlapping the finished edge of it. We're just going to go over the flange that gets mudded. This will prevent any net or bead popping, we call it, cracking, anything on the bead. It's extra credit. Extra credit. You see that? It's not overlapping the finished square edge. It's inside the flange. That's a strong corner bead. So let's go ahead and get all this fiberglass. We're going to get everything scraped in fiberglass. Fiberglass, fiberglass. You can could even do paper tape in the angles. I might even do paper tape in these angles since it's a garage, make it look perfect and clean. So let's go ahead and get all this fiberglassed and then cut our pieces of paper tape for our angles, and then we're going to mud in our angles, pre-fill all of our fiberglass, and then we're going to turn around and do a nice good first coat. But even though we had to piece those pieces in, the small pieces, no big deal. It's still a nice bench. We used up all of our scrap. That's all I have left, piece of sheetrock. Once I get this all fiberglass, then it's easier just to sweep away your debris. Then we're going to plastic off the area since we're going to do a spray texture. You could have masked beforehand, but I've learned by using sheetrock and tools it tears up your plastic unless you're using a really heavy duty plastic. But that's a nice bench so far. Easy. Even did extra credit with the fiberglass over the square bead, and we did purple board. That's mold resistant sheetrock. You could have did mold sheetrock on all of it, but no big deal. Any gaps, you can put the little piece of sheetrock in, no big deal. We're going to fiberglass, pre-fill all this fiberglass. We're going to mud this whole area. It's just going to be a big mud patch when we're all done. Spray textured. Then they can go ahead and install their new water heater the next day after this dries. But let's go ahead and get this area scraped and fiberglassed.